The Toronto Maple Leafs have made more moves, and ahead of tonight's big game against the Vegas Golden Knights, we have several updates and several moves that have been made surrounding Mitch Marner. We have an update on David Kampf, and we also have an interesting update on Austin Matthews. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage that aren't subscribed to the channel, about 71% of you who are watching this video right now are not subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. We produce daily Leafs content. And again, a reminder, we will be live following tonight's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. So make sure to stay tuned for that because it's going to be a big game with a lot of young guys playing. And Darius, some more interesting things that we're going to dive into now surrounding tonight's game and going forward as well with Austin Matthews. But let's start with a couple things here. So the first one is an interesting one. Pontus Holberg is going to be playing second line center for the Toronto Maple Leafs in tonight's game. And on the surface, this looks like an interesting move. And we'll dive into a couple things here, and I'll get into the Mitch Marner comments in a minute because there was a world where he would have played center tonight, but we'll dive into that in a minute. What are your thoughts on Pontus Holberg playing center tonight? Not only center, on the second line.
Yeah, I think it's the only thing that the Toronto Maple Leafs can do. I think they have to be very careful with Fraser Minten. I think Brad Treliving's been very vocal about that, and I tend to agree with Brad Treliving. I think, you don't want to bounce this guy around between the Marlies and the Toronto Maple Leafs. He obviously had a pretty significant injury to start training camp and the preseason. So I think you should be very careful with his deployment. And I think he's actually only going to play this game and then be sent back to the Marlies. And we'll get into like the logistics of that later in the video and what that looks like, because it has changed a little bit now with David Kampf being out as well. But yeah, I think that they're just trying to protect Fraser Minten. I think Holmberg has NHL experience, and unfortunately, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. So is it, ideal? Certainly not. I would not have Holmberg on my second line center position, but I think he's going to fill in tonight, and he's going to have to play really, really well. And I think it's going to be interesting. I'm assuming Nylander's going to be on that wing. So I wonder, it could even be Marner, but I think Marner had a pretty good dynamic with Tavares going the other night. So we'll see how it shapes up because the Leafs did not have any line rushes this morning. So we'll find out at game time.
Yeah, and obviously you'd assume they're going to continue to rock the Bobby McMahon, Tavares, and Marner first line. But speaking of Mitch Marner, you can see this here. With injuries piling up, Coach Craig Berube spoke to Mitch Marner about the possibility of playing center, and he said, no problem, whatever you want. It's definitely an option. If we need it, you'd have to worry about face-offs and things like that. So an interesting comment there. And, I mean, Brad Treliving also spoke on it. The GM said in a lot of ways he's putting the team on his back, leads the team with 10 points in the last 6 games. Mitch has scored in 4 of his last 5 games. So we can discuss Mitch Marner for a minute here. So there was a world where they've considered and are actively considering making Mitch Marner a center for tonight's game. I think given the fact that there's so many, I guess, injuries, and I mean, we have Grabenkin playing, you have Fraser Minten playing. There's 2 guys that if you would have asked me last week, I don't think either of us would have really considered those guys as an option. Maybe Fraser Minten, but for Nikita Grabenkin to get in, a lot of injuries would have happened. And you mentioned it in the video earlier today. If things were in a perfect world, it would probably be Alex Nylander instead of Nikita Grabenkin or Fraser Minten. But of course, he's on a one-way deal in the AHL, an AHL contract only. But what are your thoughts on this? Mitch Marner has absolutely stepped up. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know how I'd feel about moving him out of a role right now on the wing on the first line where he's been playing so well and really has been carrying the team. Moving him to center might not mess things up chemistry-wise necessarily, but he's on a roll right now. Stick with it.
Yeah, he's been playing great. And I don't want to gloss over it because obviously he makes a lot of money. And the fact that Austin Matthews is out, you would assume or expect him to take over, right? To kind of carry the team on his back. But I don't want to gloss over that fact. Like he has been really, really good. Like some of his best games ever, honestly, on both sides of the puck, I think in the defensive zone and the offensive zone. So he's been brilliant. Honestly, I just wanted to give him his flowers the last couple of games because he's been great. And I think he's going to try and continue to do that. Now, in terms of playing center, I think if you look at it positionally, maybe Mitch Marner is the best Leaf winger suited for center if you were going to move somebody to center. Maybe, yes, that is true. I could see that. But personally, I think he plays too small. It would be a problem in the playoffs. I think it would even be a problem in the regular season. And on top of that, he's not a very good face-off guy. Like I don't know if he's better than even William Nylander, which we know that Nylander, I think they made the decision he's not going to be playing center and they're not even going to experiment with that anymore. So I think he's a worse face-off guy than Nylander because Nylander does take face-offs from time to time depending on the situation on the ice. And he's much worse than Tavares. I think almost everybody in the league is much worse than Tavares. Tavares is a very good face-off guy, and obviously Matthews when he comes back, right? And even Domi, I think it's a weird situation. So positionally, maybe it could work if they absolutely had to try it. But I think that he plays a little bit too small. I think he's getting better at that under Berube. I think it's getting there, but we haven't really seen where we want him to be. But Again, yeah, positionally it could make sense, but I think with the other things, the other intangibles like the face-off percentage and all that, I don't think it would work. And I think that they're going to continue to ride probably, with everyone healthy, ride Max Domi at center. But I do think, in the future, topic for another video, once again, they're going to go out and get another center. I think that they're going to have to do that.
Yeah, especially with all these injuries. Like, things are going to have to happen. It's going to take time for guys to get ramped up. And yeah, I agree. Mitch Marner been probably the Leafs' best player this season as a whole, and he's been very, very good. And quite frankly, let's keep him as where he is. But talking about tonight's game a little bit, and then we'll get into the Austin Matthews stuff. So Joseph Woll is confirmed to start in goal. Yanni Hakanpää is out with rest, and Simon Benoit factors back into the lineup. So Joseph Woll gets to start. This was, again, still up in the air a little bit given the amount of off days the Leafs have had, but it makes it makes a ton of sense. Sellers has been the better goalie, but obviously you want to keep Woll somewhat fresh, especially given the fact that in December, like we've mentioned a million times in the videos, it's not like a broken record here, but it's going to be important. They play a lot of back-to-backs, I think 3 or 4 back-to-backs. They play a ton of games in December, so keep him on the go. And again, they did not do rush lines, but it's going to be interesting because we don't know exactly what the lines will be, which of course we'll discuss later. But let's dive into the bigger piece of news here. And on the surface, it doesn't look too crazy. David Kampf, he is unavailable until December 14th against the Red Wings. And if you saw our video earlier, Brad Shlivin came out and there was reports saying, hey, he might be good for Sunday. So Darius, once again, we were deceived, I guess, or something happened to where David Kampf is now on the LTIR. He won't be available for at least 3 weeks. So we can discuss that move as well by itself. But this has big implications for Matthews in a positive manner because with this move, it's not Matthews that's going to the LTIR. It's David Kampf, which means, in all likelihood, Matthews will return from Germany if he's not returned already, and get ready to go for Sunday night's game against Utah.
I think this is actually very good news if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Not good for David Kampf, but very good news if you're a fan because it sounded like he was going to be ready to go Sunday. It wasn't a serious injury, but with Max Domi being out of the lineup now, and they have, obviously the Gerbank and call-up, the salary cap didn't work. So they had to make another move. They had to put somebody on LTIR. The only 2 options I think that they had at the time, because they already used Pacioretty yesterday, which we found out late last night, would be Austin Matthews or David Kampf. So the fact that they put David Kampf on the LTIR when they said that he should be ready to go as soon as this Sunday tells me that Austin Matthews will be back maybe Sunday, or if not Sunday, at some point next week. So very, very soon. They're not willing to put Austin Matthews on the LTIR. So I think that is very good news. And I think kind of puts all the speculation and rumors to bed as well about the Leafs wanting to keep him out all season and going out and trading for $13 million worth of players to use in the playoffs. And I think we can put that to bed because that's not the case. This guy's going to be returning soon. I think he just probably wanted a second opinion and to work with the doctor. He already did. So it's really good news if you're a Leafs fan because they're not willing to put him on LTIR. He should be back soon.
Yeah, I mean, if he was going to be out for any period of time, they would have kept David Kampf available. But I guess David Kampf got the short end of the stick for this one, and David Kampf's playing extremely well. So a lot of interesting things. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on this because it's a lot of moving pieces for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. I can't recall. I mean, it's been a while since the Leafs have had this many injuries this early with this many moving pieces, but a very exciting game tonight. We get to see Nikita Gerbankin play an NHL game. We get to see Fraser Minton make his season debut. So much is going on, and we'll be live after it. So make sure to tune in for that. Hit the subscribe button. See you guys later.